Hi everyone, I'm Basan Nilamra, tutor for financial reporting at Kaplan School of Accountancy and Management. Interpretation of financial statement is one of the most important topic in financial reporting. But unfortunately, most of the students find this topic very difficult, so they don't focus much on interpretation of financial statement. They devote very less time in interpretation of financial statements. That is one of the most stupidest mistake that you can commit. Why? If you are planning to pass financial reporting. Because as you're aware, your financial reporting question is divided into three sections. Section A, Section B, and Section C. Where Section A and B both are multiple choice questions. And you can expect questions from any topic, from any part of the syllabus. It can be asked from accounting standards. It can also be asked from consolidation. And most of your past financial reporting, you can expect a few questions, 2 or 3 questions in section A or section B related to consolidation. Apart from that, the next questions or the balance questions in section A and section B, multiple choice questions or objective type questions will be from accounting standards. And there are around 20 to 22 accounting standards that you have to learn, plus consolidation. So your section A and section B, 30 multiple choice questions carrying 60 marks will be asked from 22 to 23 topics. So you have to master all those 23 topics to gain 60 marks. But if you analyze any of the past ACCA financial reporting question paper, you will see one thing. You will see one thing. In every examination, in section C, there is one question for 20 marks on interpretation of financial statements. So if you're going to write an ACCA financial reporting, I can right now and tell you that in your section C, you'll be getting an interpretation of financial statement question for sure. You will either get an interpretation of financial statement or a consolidation question, or you will get interpretation of financial statement or a single entity question. So whether you're getting a consolidation question or whether you're getting a single entity question in section C, one is certain, that there will be one question for 20 mark on interpretation of financial statement. So if you want to pass financial reporting, if you want to save your 3 months by not re-attempting that question paper, financial reporting again, if you want to save your hard-earned money, if you want to know to reappear for financial reporting after 3 months and spend again hundreds of pounds, do this thing. Focus on interpretation of financial statement. But a lot of students find it very difficult. I have been teaching more than 25 batches. I have taught more than 25 batches of financial reporting. But every time we get feedback from students, sir, while we have practiced BPP, but when we compare our answer with BPP answer, our answers are no way closer to BPP answer. Oh, sir, we have taken Kaplan question and practiced. But when we compare Kaplan with Kaplan answers with our answers are no way nearer to Kaplan answers. Or brighter students will say this, sir, I have practiced past question papers. Yes, those are the brighter students, those who practice past question papers. They know how to pass because you have to practice past question papers. Even those brighter students who have brains and who have practiced ACCA past question papers will say, sir, when we compare our answer with ACCA answer key, it is no way nearer to ACCA answers. If you have attended a recent webinar conducted by ACCA, And the person who has presented that webinar was Mr. James, who is the head of learning in ACCA. He has explicitly stated that the answer key of ACCA are only a thing that is on a guidance. It's only a gate how to write the answer. They are not expecting you to write exactly as an ACCA answer key. It is not practically possible. So ACCA answer are guidance only. So how to score good marks in interpretation of financial statement? That is what we are going to do in next few sessions. So my next sessions will be, so this interpretation of financial statement, it is going to be on a series of webinars, a series of videos. So in this first video, I'll be taking the basics, how you have to score good marks in interpretation of financial statements. Next thing, I'll be next video, I'll be explicitly stating how you have to answer ROCE and net asset turnover. And in my third video, I'll be explaining how you have to interpret gross profit ratio and operating margin ratio. And in my fourth and final video, I'll be explaining how you have to interpret gearing ratio and liquidity ratios. And in a few subsequent videos, I'll be taking a few full ratio analysis or interpretation of financial statement question and explaining. So in this video, I'll only be explaining how you have to score better marks on a general term. And part 2 video, I'll be stating how you have to score good marks in ROC and net asset turnover. So make sure you subscribe to this channel and click on that notification bar. So when I upload my next video, which will be very specific from an examination point of view, how to interpret ROCE and net asset turnover, you will be notified. So make sure you subscribe to this channel and click that notification bar. So in this one, we are just going through a general idea how to score high marks in interpretation of financial statement. This is as per ACCA's examiner's comment. Now, examiner has stated that use your tables for calculation. Instead of typing, just show it in a table. So in a table, one column for ratio, second column for calculation, and third column can be for your ratios or accordingly. So if it is your calculating 2-year ratio, maybe first column for ratios, second column for showing ratios of one particular year, and the other one for showing ratios of next year. And if you're preparing an adjusted figures, maybe 4 columns will be required. So whatever, show your calculations in tables. Next one, use heading for interpretation. So if you're showing ROCE, if you're interpreting ROCE, net asset turnover ratio, gross profit ratio, operating margin ratio, just give a heading, profitability ratio. All those are profitability ratio. So just give a heading, profitability ratio, or just give a heading, assessing, okay, profitability ratio, or assessing performance or position as the case may be. When you're writing liquidity ratios, when you're interpreting receivables days, payable days, etc., inventory days, etc., give a heading, liquidity. So the examiner knows that you are assessing liquidity. And finally, when you're preparing gearing ratio, when you're interpreting gearing ratio, just give a heading, gearing. And finally, don't forget to give conclusion. Next one, write in short paragraph, 2 or 3 words per paragraph. That means in performance, or if you're assessing profitability, let's take profitability. If you're assessing profitability, you know that there is ROCE. So once you give a heading profitability ratios or assessment of profitability, then in one paragraph, 2 or 3 sentences, write ROCE. Then in next sentence, if you're comparing net asset turnover or interpreting net asset turnover, interpret net asset turnover in next paragraph. And if you're talking about gross profit, if you're interpreting gross profit or operating margin, write it in separate paragraph. So break your interpretation into separate paragraph. 2 or 3 sentences in a paragraph, then break the paragraph, write it in next paragraph. And most importantly, provide working for calculation. Don't simply use your calculator and finally input your answers. Show how you have got current ratio. If the current asset is 2000 and current liability is 1000, just don't use your calculator. 2000 divided by 1000, 2. No, show the calculation. You don't have to write the equation. But after writing current ratio, in your calculation column, show it is 2000 divided by 1000. Now, what is the advantage of providing calculation? This is most important. If you have written that calculation, if you have shown how you got current ratio, even due to some reason your calculations go wrong because you select this wrong current asset, you took a wrong figure or you didn't adjust properly. But examiner knows that what is your current ratio, how you have made that mistake. So if you provide calculation, even if your calculations are wrong, your interpretation, even if it is wrong based on your wrong calculation, you will get full marks for your interpretation. Yes, it has been stated in ACCA's examiner's report. This is not as per me. ACCA has stated this. So make sure you provide calculations. You show calculations, not your calculator. Show the calculations. How you got that current ratio, how you got that ROC. Show what is there in your numerator and what is there in the denominator. And most importantly, link your answer to the scenario. This is an art. If you really want to pass financial reporting, and if you have watched this video till now, make sure to subscribe this channel because in my next video on ROC and net asset turnover ratio, I'm just going to teach you how you have to interpret ROC and net asset turnover and how you have to link your answer to scenarios. Yes, my part 2 video on ROC and net asset turnover, I'll be taking questions from past ACCA exam paper and I will teach you how you have to link your answers to the scenarios. And in my part 3 video, gross profit margin and operating margin, once again, I will teach you how you have to link your interpretation of operating margin and gross profit margin to the scenario given with the aid of numerous ACCA past papers. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and press the notification bar. And most importantly, you have to state the reason for increase or decrease of a ratio using the given scenario. If you want to pass, continue watching my video part 2 and part 3. And when comparing your performance with a sector, you have to state whether the ratio is good or bad compared to the sector and state the reason why it is good or why it is bad with respect to case scenarios. So once again, all those things, I will be teaching you how to link your answer to the scenario and how to write how to state the increase reason for increase or decreasing with the help of given scenario and with again scenario. So my part 2 video and part number 3 video, I'll be teaching how you have to link your answer to the scenario and score maximum mark from the most important topic in financial reporting, interpretation of financial statements. Now, before moving forward, you have to know what are the types of questions they really or normally ask in your financial reporting answers, question paper. So basically, there are 6 types of question. One, they will ask you to compare one entity with previous year. Second, they will ask you to compare two entities in the same period, mostly to acquire for the purpose of acquisition. So they will give you two entities and they will tell you, please compare these two entities and tell which company need to be acquired. And then comparison of an entity with sector average and analysis of consolidated financial statement, acquisition of a subsidiary and as well as disposal of a subsidiary. And very rarely they ask analysis of cash flow information. Now let's look into how you have to answer this 5 scenarios one by one. And in my part 2 video and part number 3 video, I'll be dissecting this in much detail with the help of ACCA past question paper. And this part is only a general part where I'll be discussing a few things. So this is basically a teaser or trailer of the next upcoming classes. So when you compare one entity over two periods, what ACCA examiner is expecting? The key things you have to consider is that, is there any development? Is there any changes between year 1 and year 2? and whether the performance has improved or whether the position has improved or deteriorated as compared to the previous year. And as stated above, as stated earlier, whether it has increased or decreased, they are not interested in that. Normally, students write ROCE as of current year it is 20%, ROCE of previous year it is 15%. So the performance have increased, or maybe opposite, performance have reduced, deteriorated. ACCA will give you 0 marks. Yes, you heard it correctly. They will give you 0 marks for that. They are not interested in your answer whether it is increased or decreased. You have to state the reason why it is increased, why it is decreased with the help of case scenarios. And to get that and to learn that, make sure you attend my part 2 and part 3 of the interpretation of financial statement. And there will be certain one-off events. There will be certain items that are non-recurring, that happen only in this year, or that have happened only in past year. It can be redundancy. A few employees might have been thrown out, etc., etc. So when you're comparing, make sure both the figures, current year figure and previous year figures, are comparable. You have to remove one-off events. So many questions, such questions has been asked in past ACCA financial reporting. So if you go through ACCA website and have practiced past papers, you know what we mean by this. And if this excess question will normally ask you to strip out this, remove this one-off items and reproduce new ratios and then compare. And finally, you have to compare if there is any changes in customers or entities market. Now, how you have to answer comparing two entities in the same period? As I stated earlier, ACCA financial reporting examination, in this type of question, they will give you financial statements for two companies, and they will ask this particular which company need to be considered for acquisition. So in such case, you have to consider if there is any difference in accounting policies. We'll be discussing this in part number 2. So make sure you attend my part 2 to get maximum benefit, and make sure you attend that class so that it will be really helpful for you, so that you can save your 3 months time and save your hundreds of pounds, and make sure you can pass your financial reporting examination in this attempt itself. So as it told you earlier, if you are thorough in financial reporting, you can pass, and it's not a big piece, believe me. Attend my part 2 class, you will understand it. It is nothing. You can score out of 20, you can easily score 16 or 17 mark. Yes, I can guarantee you that. Make sure you attend my part 2 class. So if the question includes acquisition, make sure you comment on liquidity. Now, comparison of an entity with sector average is another type of question they normally ask you to interpret. So in that question, what you have to do is that if firms have different year end, it may skew comparison, and you have to consider whether if there is any different accounting policy. For example, a particular organization will be following revaluation model, whereas other company will be following cost model. So in this particular company, we'll have revaluation surplus while the sector won't have it. So there are a lot of issues. So we'll look into that later. And analysis of consolidation of financial statement, acquisition of subsidiary. So when you acquire a subsidiary, it is very important to note that your result will not be comparable, because previous year there is no subsidiary and this year you have acquired a subsidiary. So if you have acquired a subsidiary in this year financial statement, there will be parent plus subsidiary, whereas previous year there won't be any subsidiary. So you will have to adjust for that. And also you have to give consideration when the subsidiary was acquired during the year, whether it was in the beginning or in the mid. So if it was in the mid, then in current year financial statement, there will be parent plus 6 months or 6 or 7 months, or as the case may be, subsidiary's profit. So again, once you again have to accept. For example, if a subsidiary is acquired 6 months into the year, then only 6 months revenue will be included, but all the assets and liabilities will be included. And so this will really affect your ROCE. As I stated, my part number two will teach you how you have to answer ROCE and net asset turnover ratio in all those five different types of question and along with past question papers. So make sure you attend that part two class. And finally, the last part of this discussion, if there's a disposal of subsidiary, what you have to do. So if there's a disposal of subsidiary, then current year financial statement will contain only parent company or proportionate part of subsidiary, whereas previous year it will be full parent plus subsidiary. Then, so comparison you will have to adjust, and you'll be also will be asked to support this particular part and talk about the limitation of comparison. And there will be a lot of one-off items relating to disposal, and there may be a gain or loss on disposal. There will be certain redundancy cost, there will be professional fees, all those things you will have to consider. So this is a general thing which I have to tell you. So summing up this short video, if you want to score good marks in ratio analysis, one, show your ratio in calculations in a table. Make sure you show your ratio calculations. And when you interpret, give headings like profitability, position, or what do you say, gearing, liquidity, etc. And in one paragraph, write it in paragraph 2 or 3 sentences. An examiner is not interested in whether it has increased or decreased. You have to state from the scenario what has increased or what has decreased. And there are 5 types of questions that will be asked: comparing with previous year, comparing with sector, comparing with two organization, acquisition of a subsidiary and disposal of subsidiary. All those things with respect to ROC and net asset turnover, I'll be uploading in my next video quite soon. So make sure you attend my next videos, watch my next video on how to interpret ROC and net asset turnover with respect to case scenarios from past ACCA examination. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and click that bell icon notification bar. Thank you everyone. See you on my next video. Have a nice day. All the best for your upcoming ACCA examination.